afternoon, everybody. Hi Christine, hi Sarah, hi Kim. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. You alright, Christine? I'll just give it a few minutes just to make sure everybody else is gonna join us. Hi Sarah. I'm a lot better, thank you, Sarah. Cough's more or less gone now. My arm's back to normal after my jab, so all good. Good idea for a Friday, eh? Hi Franca. So I had a bit of change of plan for today's live. I was doing a pyramid card, but I had forgotten that our lovely Lisa Robson had done a pyramid card already, and it's on, I think she's put a link in the group, so if anybody needs to know how to make one, they can refer to Lisa's video. Hello Jean. Yeah, good, thank you Christine. Hello Natalie. How are you? Hope you're all okay. It's a bit windy here today, so I'm hoping my internet doesn't crash. Fingers crossed, eh? Best laid plans and all that. Okay, I think we'll get going because it's whilst it's not a difficult card, there's quite a lot to it. So excuse me being a bit croaky and me saying my cough's gone. Right, so let's get stuck in. So this is the card I'm going to be making today. I hope you can all hear me okay. Christine or Sarah, can you just let me know if it sounds okay? I'm sure it probably is, but doesn't harm to check. So this is the card I'm making today, and this technique is known by several different names. Multi-layer stamping, cascade stamping, call it what you will. I just call it to me it's cascade stamping because, thank you Sarah, because it cascades down the images. So that's what my card is based on today. So if I just quickly run you through what products I'm going to be using today. First off, I'm using Lisa's fabulous jewelled butterflies. I'm using this one. This is my absolute favourite. Hi Natasha. My absolute favourite of the butterfly stamps. There's the jewel butterfly, majestic butterflies, and the wings and things. And I've got to be honest, this one is my go-to butterfly. I really should practice using the others because they're all gorgeous, but this is just my favourite, so that's the one I've used today. So that's off the jewelled butterflies set. I'm also using the wordage sheets. This is volume 2, still available on Lisa's website, thatcraftplace.co.uk, along with, I think volume 1 are still available, and I think there's another couple of sets that are still on the website. And I love these sentiments because they're out of the ordinary. They're not just your plain and ordinary happy birthday, get well soon, birthday wishes. There's lots of different things in there. Sometimes we want to send a card that isn't for a birthday. It's just to, especially now, just to sort of pick somebody up, give them a bit of a lift. And the sentiments in these wordage sheets just fit that perfectly. So I'm using volume 2 for today. I'm also using Lisa's masking paper, which was on the show on, what day are we now? Wednesday. It's brilliant stuff, this. It's an exceedingly thin masking paper, hence it's called masking paper, not just masking sheets. It's thin, and I like it being thin because you don't get that lip that you do get with some masking sheets. I mean, some stamps come with ready cut masks for them, and sometimes I think the material that they use is just that tiny little bit too thick, which gives you a lip on your stamping, and that's why I like these, because you don't get that. So I'm using those today as well. And I'm also using the fabulous Summer Petunia stamps. I'm using the smaller one of the 2 stamps today. this is my favourite of all of the floral stamps that Lisa bought to you a couple of weeks ago. I just think it's so versatile. It's so birthdays, pick you up cards, get well cards, thinking of you cards. There's just so many different uses for this set of stamps, and obviously the background stamp that goes with it gives you a third size of stamp. So if you wanted to sort of, instead of doing stamping like this, if you wanted 3 panels that went smaller each time, you could use the large one, the middle one, and then cut the one out of the background stamp so that you've got 3 different sizes. And that's a cool idea. I might try that soon. So I'm using those as well. So first things first, we need to do our stamping. I'm using a stamping platform for this purely and simply because I feel it makes it easier to line everything up and make sure that you get your stamping in the right place. Okay, so I'm using, my base card is 7 by 7 or 17.2 centimetres squared. So happy birthday, Jill. Nice to see you. Glad you could join me on your birthday. Hope you're having a fabulous time. Glad you got my card. It's not that much different being that number than the one before, is it really? Well, I didn't think so. So hope you have a lovely day. So yeah, my base card is 7 by 7. And then my matting and layering, I should have cut this at 16.5, and I didn't. I only cut it at 16. So it's a little bit smaller than I wanted it to be. You'll see on the original one, the matting and layering was so much more minimalistic. So that's what I wanted, but it'll still look just as good. So those are my base cards that I'm using. So then I've cut 3 panels in white. Now they are 15 by 6.5 centimetres for your big one, 12 by 6 centimetres for your middle one, and 9 by 5.5 centimetres for your small one. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little piece of masking tape, which is the low tack masking tape, so that it doesn't ruin my card, and I'm going to put it on the back of my 2 larger panels, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my matted and layered piece of card, and I'm just going to place these out where I want them to sit on the actual card, so that I get them in the right place to do my stamping on. Just make sure that's in the right place there. Okay, so I'm lining this up, not measuring it, I'm only eyeballing it because the only measurements I do are for the matting and layering. And I want this to come a fair way across the card, so I want this last piece here to leave me just a tiny edge here, perhaps a little bit narrower than that. So I'm just going to line those up. That's better, got a bit more of an edge there. And then just rub down where my masking tape is on the card underneath, and I know that my cards then aren't going to move, she said, hopefully. So I can get that out of the way and then put that back. Now the first thing I'm going to do is stamp my butterfly. So I'm going to take my butterfly stamp and I'm going to place him on my card where I want him to be. Okay. And then I'm going to put my platform down, bring him up. Now I've lost one of my magnets on my stamping platform. I've got some more somewhere, I know I have, but do you think I can find them? It's one of those things that, you know you've got them, but hey, I don't know where they are. And then I'm going to ink him up, and I'm using on this occasion an archival ink in aquamarine. I used, I think, cornflower blue on yesterday's, so that was what I used yesterday. And I just think the colours on this one are just perfect for a sort of a sympathy card, you know, remembering you, or with sympathy, sending love, that sort of thing. Just for something a little bit different that doesn't sort of scream, for want of a better phrase, doesn't scream death at you. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to find a right balance between a nice card but not too fussy, and I'm hoping that that one sort of meets that brief. So I'm just going to ink my butterfly up. And the other reason I wanted to do this was just to show you that you don't always have to colour these stamps in. You can just stamp them and leave them quite plain. They don't have to be totally coloured in. So I'm just going to pop that down there. And the reason I'm using the platform is that sometimes when you're stamping on multi-layers like this, you don't always get the printed image that you want. So I just put it on the platform so that I know I can put it back and it's going to be in exactly the right place. But I'm hoping that I don't have to do it more than once. I don't think that's too bad. Now you'll see here there is a little gap, and that's because this is a 250 GSM card. This is Lisa's Super Smooth 250 GSM card, which is ideal for stamping on. But of course you're going to get a little bit of a lip where your stamp isn't going to meet the card underneath. That's not going to matter, because I'm going to matte and layer this white card onto card that matches my matte and layer on the back of my main card. So that gap will disappear. You'll see in a sec what I mean. So I'm just going to take my butterfly off, because I'm not going to stamp him again. I don't think I need to. And put him to one side. And then what I'm going to do is roughly put my flower where I think it lines up with that first piece of card. Okay? And without touching this card, although I have cleaned this stamp, but I don't want to take any chances. I want him further over. What I want is, I don't mind the leaves on this stamp going over the edge of this card, but what I don't want is the edge of this flower to go over the butterfly. And you'll see, if I show you the one I did yesterday, you see here, this is the wing on the butterfly, and this is the edge of the flower. And I just think it detracts a little bit from the butterfly. So on today's, I don't want that to happen. So I want to position this flower so that you see more of the flower over here and none of the flower by the wing on the butterfly. It makes sense to me, but I mean, obviously personal choice, totally up to you. So you see, when I put that down now, that flower isn't going to go over the wing of my butterfly, and that's exactly what I want. So I'm happy with where that is. Now what I need to do is mask off this piece of the butterfly. So I'm going to use my masking paper. Now I've used this several times already, and I just leave it on a piece of coated cardstock. You can put it back on the backing sheet that they come on, but it's quite fiddly, and I think if you can find something that they'll stick to without taking all the tackiness off and not being able to use it again, then do that, because to put it back on the backing sheet is very fiddly and time consuming, and I don't really think it's necessary. So just my opinion. So matching this up is a bit fiddly, because obviously it's a butterfly and there's a lot of detail on it, and I have used this several times already, so it's a bit delicate, but all I want to do is make sure that the wing on this butterfly is covered up, so that when I stamp my flower isn't going to appear on top of my butterfly. And see, I've cut the mask in half. I've got the other half so that if I need the full butterfly, I've got both. Excuse my head. But it's quite difficult to get it in the right position, and I just want to make sure that there isn't any of the wings showing. And that should be enough. I know you can see a little bit of the wing here, but I don't think it's going to matter. So, those tweezers of Lisa's come in so useful so many times. So, here we go. Stamp the flower up. Now my flower isn't going to appear over my butterfly, it's going to appear behind my butterfly, which is exactly what I want. So I'm just going to stamp that down. See, where it's stamping, it's not going to interfere with any of the bits where I haven't quite masked off the butterfly, but where I need it, it's in the right place. So I just press that down there, paying particular attention to the piece down the edge. And lift that off. Now you'll see there's quite a gap there, so what I'm actually going to do is just do that little bit one more time. I'm just going to stand up for this because I'm usually sitting down. But when you need a little bit more pressure, standing up just gives you that, there you go. It just gives you that extra little bit of pressure that you need for a reasonable image. Okay, so before I take my mask off my butterfly, I'm going to take this off here and get rid of this out of the way. And before I take this mask off my butterfly, I'm actually just going to dab the masking paper with some kitchen towel, because what I did when I made this one, I don't know whether you can see, if I bring that up a little bit, you can see here there's some smudge marks on the flower and on the white bits where it should be pristine white. I got that in the right position. I don't know whether you'll pick it up actually, but this is off my thumb, and it's because when I was taking the masking sheet off the butterfly, I hadn't realised that the ink was still wet. And I think what it is because I'm stamping with an archival, which it does dry reasonably quickly, but the masking paper is also stamped in an archival. And because I'm putting ink onto ink on paper, I think it leaves it a little bit wet. So what I want to do is just make sure, see there is some ink on there, so it is still wet. I just want to make sure that my ink is dry before I start and take that mask off, so that I'm not, see there's still ink on it. I think that probably will do it, but you just want to make sure. I mean, you could always stamp it the day before, leave it to dry completely, and then you'll know for sure that you won't get the problem. But I'm just going to go for it anyway. And then I'm going to peel this mask off slowly, because as I said, it is thin paper. But if you're gentle with it and do it slowly, it peels off beautifully and you can use it again afterwards. Now this is quite an intricate stamp, and obviously there's no dye with these butterflies, so this is hand cut. And I think sometimes, like particularly here, this is a very thin piece and it may rip, but it doesn't matter. As long as you keep all the pieces, you can still use them again, and you can use these masks over and over again. I think I've used this about 6 times now, and it still does exactly what it is. And you can see how sticky it is. It's not lost any of its tacky. So it's still going to stick to my card where I want it to stick to my card. I'll put that back on there, I'll sort that out later. Okay, so now I can take my masking paper, take my tape off the back, so that I've got my 3 pieces ready to mat and layer onto my card. Okay, so these are my mats for my pieces that I've done today. Now I haven't measured the turquoise pieces of card because I only wanted the tiniest mat on these, because I wanted them to separate each other, but I didn't want the mat to stand out too much, because you need to line up each piece of the image with the piece underneath, and if your mat is too big you won't be able to do that. So yeah, so that's a good tip, that is, Natasha. Just use it on something else first. It's beautiful stuff, and like I say, because it's so thin, it doesn't give you a lip where you're stamping, so I just think they're really good. Just quick catch up on the comments. Hi Sandy, hi Elaine, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Hi Louisa, hi Natalia. Right, so now I'm just going to stick these down on here. So yeah, I didn't measure these little mats. So all I did was just place these pieces of card down and then cut my backing paper round it. Now obviously when you're doing it, you can do all your stamping and then stick it down onto your matting layer and then cut it out, which would make things easier for you. Hi Helen, hi Sandra. So it would make it easier to cut them out, and you just get them the right size then. But either way is fine. It'll work either way. But I just think this is quite an effective technique for making something look just that little bit different, a bit more special than just a stamped card. I mean, you could have stamped this image on the base card and masked it exactly the same way that I've already done it. But I just think this just makes it a teeny bit more interesting. And you'll see I'm using a wet glue. I use the Pin Flare bookbinding glue. I've also used the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue. And I think using a wet glue just gives you that little bit of time to manoeuvre your card around before it's had time to stick. I think with tape, especially the red tape, once it's down, and when you try and move it, then that's when your problems start. So that's why I use a wet glue for this sort of thing. I do use the tape, but the other problem with the tape, of course, is that when you're using tape on cards, the tape can tend to dry out. That moved, and it moved where I didn't want it, so I have to peel it off again. Bear with. But you couldn't have done that with tape. So see what I mean? You could only do that with a wet glue. Okay, so now you've got 3 matted and layered parts of your image, which will line up beautifully when you come to add them to your card. So, to my card. Now I know you all know how to mat and layer, and I did toy with the idea of doing this before, but I thought no, let's go the whole hog and demonstrate the whole of the card. And then, because there's always people starting out, I've been crafting like Heidi 35, 36 years, but I know that there are still people who are only just starting out that look for tips and hints and advice. So it's always nice just to show the whole process, I think, sometimes. So as I say, this was meant to be a little bit bigger, because I wanted it to be the same as my original, and I wrote the measurements down and I wrote them down wrong. So it's me own stupid fault. I should have checked them before I cut it. What is it they say? Measure twice cut once. Hi Anne. It's not good when that happens, is it? Laptops die on you. Still got the Steam computer that you can use, I presume, so you'll be alright now. Now then, come to add these on. This is when I realised that I hadn't cut my card for my matting and layering on the back piece big enough, because you see on the original card there's a nice gap around the edge of this big piece, and that was what I wanted. There isn't as much of a gap on here, but I don't think it's going to make a great deal of difference to the card, to be honest. So what you need to do now is line up your image with the piece underneath. So you're ignoring the matted piece, you're just looking at the image. So the image is lined up perfectly on there, and that's what you want to do with that piece as well, which is where I said to you, that piece that didn't stamp properly, that because of the lip of the card, you lose that, because when you come to match it all up, the matte part of your matting layer will hide that. So I quite like that idea. It means you don't have to go for total perfection all the time. Although it's nice to go for total perfection. So I'm just going to glue this middle piece on first, lining that up all the way down. So I'm lining the top piece, then the middle piece, and then the leaf piece here. Line that up like that. And then I'm going to add glue to this one, and then put that down on my base card. Like so. Right, go quiet when I'm concentrating, sorry. Yes, they're I must admit they're not colours I use an awful lot, Franca. I'm a very pink and purple girl at heart, but I have to challenge myself now and again to use different colours, because otherwise all my cards would be pink and purple, and that's a bit boring. So I try and make myself use different coloured inks and cards. And to be honest, the cardstock that I've used is the American Crafts cardstock, which is a beautiful textured cardstock, and the colours in there do inspire you to use different coloured inks. So that's been a bonus for me. So we'll just line the image up with the one underneath, and then stick it down like so. And I just think the effect of that looks fabulous. So like I said, I was using the wordage sheets. This is from volume 2, and these are the sort of sentiments that you get in the set. Let me just go through a few. Put your positive pants on. Creative minds are rarely tidy, and if you could see my craft room, that rings true really. You're the best thing I never planned. Be happy, it drives people crazy. I think one of the other ones is get yourself a me, I'm amazing, or words to that effect. I like that one. I've sent that one to a friend, female friend. Funnily enough, she hasn't commented on it yet, but hey ho, I'm sure she likes it. So then my sentiment is going bottom corner, just to sort of give a little bit of balance. Now, me being me, I know you all know that I can't have a card without a little bit of sparkle, and even if it's a card for a bereavement or a sad occasion, I just think a little bit of sparkle. Doesn't have to be over the top. Let's put that a little bit far down. Doesn't have to be over the top, just something to just lift the card a little bit. So I'm using Tina's favourite, these flatback gems, which I don't use very often. I tend to use the pearls, which is a bit of a shame because I haven't got many left. So I'm using the flatback gems instead today. And this colour just matched my card perfectly. When I got my pearls out to find what I was going to use, I couldn't have asked for a better match colour wise than that. I just think they're, and the fact that they've got that AB finish to them just gives them a little bit of a different finish. They sparkle sort of different colours in different lights. I just think they're fabulous. So that's today's card. Now I don't know whether you know that, I'm sure you all do, that Ranger have just brought out a new distress colour, which is called Kitsch Flamingo, which is a beautiful colour, and I just had to think, I wonder what that would look like on a card. Would I be able to do a card? So I've got all my bits. I'm not going to do it now. Got all my little bits and pieces, and I cut it out, and I've actually stamped it in distress ink, which isn't ideal ink to stamp in, really, but I actually think this worked, probably because it's a brand new ink pad and it's quite juicy, so it did stamp quite nicely. But I just think if you use, I mean obviously it's not set out properly, but if you use a nice bright colour and then change the sentiment completely, I'll move that over a little bit so that that fits on there, collect beautiful moments, and my flatback gems that I'm going to use are again a perfect match. They're upside down at the moment, but they are a perfect match for this colour. So when I've put all this together, I'll put a picture of all three on the group, just so that you can see the difference. But I think you'll agree that whatever occasion you wanted to use these cards for, or this type of stamping, you can adapt it to fit whatever occasion you want. If I just move that up a little bit, you can see all three. It will suit any occasion, depending on what colour and what sentiment you use. There are 3 different occasions there, all with exactly the same image, with exactly the same technique, but look totally different. And I love that Lisa's products work so beautifully, new and old, all together. They're just fabulous. So that's my card for today. Don't know what I'm doing next week yet. Got to find something a little bit different, I think. Thank you, Jean. I'm glad you enjoyed them. Yes, Tina, I know they're your favourite, aren't they? That's why I've tried to use them as often as I can now, because I don't want to use all my pearls up. So yeah, I hope you get your computer sorted, Anne. It's always a pain when computers don't work the way they're supposed to. So yeah, that's my card for today. I'll finish the pink one and I'll put a photograph in the group. Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, which is where this will be loaded up to later on today. There is loads of videos on there. There are videos on there from our new design team members, particularly Sandra. Sandra's done a lot on there, and they are just beautiful videos which will give you an awful lot of inspiration. So when your mojo goes walkabout, just nip along and have a look at our YouTube channel. Subscribe while you're there and then you won't miss anything. Lisa always does a show preview, and I do try and get the show preview up on YouTube if I can. I would urge you all to, if you can, always watch the show previews, because you will get information in the show previews that are going to save you money. So Create and Craft always drop the bundle price on a new product, but it varies in time. It's usually around about 5 or 6 o'clock the night before, can be earlier, but it's well worth hanging on if you can to get that price drop. And especially with the bundle that was on Tuesday, the magazine, the box kit. I hope everybody that got it, you are absolutely going to love it. I'm sorry if you missed the exclusive part, and I know Lisa had a huge stock, but they did prove extremely popular. So yeah, there you go. So always try and watch Lisa's show previews if you can. Well worth it. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Thanks very much for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed the cards, hope you liked them, and I'll pop it up on YouTube later on today. Claire will be back with you on Tuesday. Natasha will be back with you on Wednesday, and I'll be back with you next Friday. So have a fabulous weekend. Hope you all enjoy whatever it is you're doing, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.